Good morning, everyone. I hope you all had a pleasant evening last night, and you're here fresh to go. This is Saturday, celebration day. So, as Pedro said, and I feel really privileged to have the opportunity to stand here and talk about the winner of the Kenneth Hudson Award for Institutional Courage and Professional Integrity. So the Kenneth Hudson Award for Institutional Courage and Professional Integrity goes to a museum, a group or an individual to celebrate courage at times that can be controversial, museum practices that challenge and expand common perceptions of the role and responsibilities of museums in society. So well rooted and anchored in the experience of one particular individual and one particular cultural minority group, the museum that received the Kenneth Hudson Award in 2023 is the 23-5 Hrant Dink Site of Memory, and it communicates that human rights are indivisible and universal. It sheds light on the past while also acting for the future, fostering empathy and mutual understanding, and contributing to social transformation and democratisation. It's my great honour and privilege, and please join me in welcoming Nayat Karaköse, who was last year's winner of the Kenneth Hudson Award for Institutional Courage and Professional Integrity.
Thank you very much, and hello everyone, distinguished guests, everyone committed to museums. It's a profound honor to stand before you today. Last year, at this time, we were living the joy, excitement, and honor to receive the Kenneth Hudson Award. Well, for those who don't know, 23.5 Hrant Dink Site of Memory is located in the former office venue of Armenian Turkish newspaper Agos. The venue gained a significant meaning in the collective memory and the collective conscience of the society when the Armenian editor-in-chief, Hrant Dink, was assassinated right in front of the newspaper building on January 19, 2007. Well, the foundation was established a couple of months after his assassination to continue his legacy, his dreams. And every year, on the day of the assassination, still thousands of people gather in front of the building to commemorate him and demand justice. And we opened the door of the former office venue as 23.5 Hrant Dink Site of Memory on 23rd of April, 2019. Well, the site takes its name from one of the articles of Hrant Dink that he penned on 23rd of April, 1996 in Agos newspaper. In that article, he was describing his feelings in between 23rd of April, which is the day that the Turkish parliament was established. It's the day of sovereignty, and also it's a holiday dedicated to the children of the world. While the following day, 24th of April, is a very painful day for Armenians in Turkey and all around the world, as it's the start day of the Armenian genocide. So Hrant Dink was describing his feelings between the hope for the future and the pain of the past. And in that article, he was making a call. I should note that the border between Armenia and Turkey is closed since 1993 because of the Nagorno-Karabakh war, and there is no diplomatic relations. And in that article, he was saying that if it's a holiday dedicated to the children of the world, invite children from Armenia as well. Maybe they can solve this problem. Maybe they can think about peace together. That invitation and the feelings, emotions in that article very much resonated with what we wanted to do, because we view 23.5 as a place for dialogue, communication. And it's a pledge between the past, the present, the pendulum between pain and hope. Well, the site has, while shedding light on Hrant Dink's life, his assassination, the story of Agos newspaper, and it offers a look into the near history of Turkey in terms of minorities and Armenians. But most importantly, it promotes the universal values that was voiced by Hrant Dink, such as equality, coexistence, peace, democracy, human rights. Well, I should say that memory sites, they have a range of functions, and those are not the places that remember the past, but those are the places that remind people of their responsibilities, that they can do something, act despite all the difficulties. The fact that Kenneth Hudson Award has the courage in its name tells us something. St. Augustine said, "Hope has two beautiful daughters. Their names are anger and courage. Anger at the way things are, and courage to see that they do not remain as they are." Many of us are angry about the injustices and human rights violations happening right in front of our eyes right now. For instance, we are currently bearing witness to the horrendous atrocity against the people of Palestine, and we are appalled and outraged by the indifference of the international community to the ongoing brutality. But the real agents of change, the game changers, are the ones who show the courage to act, to take the streets, to occupy the campuses, to take a step despite all the challenges, oppression, cancel culture. They light a torch despite all the darkness that surrounds our minds and spirits. Courage is often understood as the absence of fear, and we know courage is far more profound. It's an act of moving forward, even when fear threatens to paralyze us. It is the unwavering commitment to our values, even in the face of adversity. Hrant Dink embodied that spirit. He spoke truth to power, a champion for democracy and human rights. His courage wasn't a singular act, it was a way of life. He didn't vanquish fear, he chose to act despite it and despite all the threats. In his final article, which was published on the morning of his assassination, he wrote about living freely with fear, facing multiple threats while speaking the truth. Quote, "I'm just like a doe. Like that of a doe, my gaze flits right and left, forward and back. My head is just as fidgety and just as quick to turn. Those live their lives in the hearts of the cities, amid the crowds and human bustle. Yes, they live a little uneasily, a little apprehensively, but they live freely too." Well, courage can manifest itself in many ways. Sometimes, the seemingly small acts we consider as ordinary can spark change and transformation. They can be the catalyst of a larger process. 23.5 welcomes the visitors with a powerful quote of Hrant Dink saying that we are the people who seek to turn the hell we live into heaven. Visitors of the memory sites and museums confronting difficult or violent pasts are driven by a range of motivations. They come to learn, to question, to explore, and to reflect upon the truth from diverse viewpoints. The Roman poet Horace, in his famous phrase, "Sapere aude," urges us to dare to know. This is the first step on the path of courage. It takes courage to be curious, to question, to delve into the complexities of the world around us, even when it is uncomfortable. We should never be afraid of the truth because we know it. The more we deny it, we are haunted by the ghosts of the past. As Hrant Dink once said, those who still advocate forgetting today, actually those who fear not only the past, but also the future. The unforgotten past is also the guarantee of the future. What we have learned over the preparation stage of the memory site is that questions, they occupy a central place. Asking questions matter for many different reasons, because they spark curiosity and a desire to learn more. This can motivate visitors to delve deeper into the topic, into the taboo subject, either at the site through the exhibits or through the resources, or by doing their research after visiting the site. Historical records can be incomplete, and in some countries, they are sealed, they are not accessible even. and memory sites often don't have all the answers. By posing questions, visitors are prompted to consider the perspectives missing from the narrative and to explore the complexities of the past. And questions, they encourage visitors to think critically about what happened, why it happened, and its significance. Memory sites question the past belongs to the past, let's open a new page and look towards the future approach, drawing attention to the fact that even a forgotten past will have repercussions that shape the present. Several studies made on individual and collective trauma show that the way of opening a clean page is not through forgetting, but it's through remembering and confronting. Indeed, truths believed to be forgotten persist in the individual and collective subconscious, continuing to manifest themselves through events involving pain and violence. And remembering is an act of resistance. It's a way of saying no to those who want to rewrite history, erase the truth, and ignore the struggles of the past. Memory sites or museums dealing with difficult and violent histories, they can complete the missing pieces of the puzzle, because we know that without those pieces, we will never be complete and access the truth. 23.5 translates the silences into words through engaging the visitors in an active way. It's not a site that talks to people, but it's a site that talks with people. It grows with the emotions, with the opinions of people. Making unheard voices audible can help us foster empathy and comprehension. We have succeeded in creating sections for our visitors where they can pen their thoughts about truth, justice, memory, and hope. They write moving, empowering, and stimulating thoughts and ideas. One of the visitors wrote, "A light shines, everyone starts to see." Memory sites can function as a shining light to illuminate the darkness and to enable the societies to see things brighter. In one of the rooms, they record their own stories, stories of victimhood, stories of confrontation, the challenges they are grappling with, stories of empowerment. Sharing stories is an act of bravery, but allowing them to be accessible to others takes even greater courage. While we honor the bravery of those who share their stories, let's not forget the profound importance of those who lend a listening ear. Truth and justice seeking are important components of the memory sites. In 4 corners of the world, we are just seeing experiences, wonderful experiences and memory sites doing this. The former victims of former sites of atrocities, who are the survivors, are harnessing their pain into power and into action. They empower and inspire us with their perseverance and transformative actions. When Hrant published the article about Armenian roots of Sabiha Gökçen, who is one of the adopted daughters of Mustafa Kemal Atatürk and who is the first woman war pilot in the world, it created a huge outrage. Hrant was aiming to emphasize the importance of talking about history through survivors and not only through numbers or death. In a world often shrouded in misinformation and silence, the courage to speak truth to power remains a fundamental pillar of a just society. The outspokenness known in ancient Greece as paresia goes beyond mere free speech. It's the willingness to challenge authority, even at personal risk, for the sake of the truth and the betterment of society. And memory sites or museums dealing with difficult histories introduce paresias to us. And memory sites dealing with difficult histories are making important contributions to the efforts of justice seeking. From Rwanda to Cambodia, from former Holocaust camps to South Africa, those sites amplify the voices for justice-seeking efforts and heartening many diverse communities, victims to show solidarity for justice-seeking. 30 years have passed since the Rwandan genocide. The Kigali Genocide Memorial, a complex of mass graves and exhibits, serves as a place of mourning and remembrance. The memorial doesn't shy away from difficult questions about the international community's failure to intervene. The unflinching honesty is crucial in seeking justice for the victims and preventing future atrocities. The killing fields of Chong Eng, Cambodia, are a horrifying reminder of the Khmer Rouge reign of terror in the 1970s. Here, mass graves containing the remains of thousands of victims stand as a stark testament to the regime's brutality. The Stol Sleng Genocide Museum, a former Khmer Rouge prison, further exposes the regime's methods of torture and control. These sites play a vital role in the ongoing quest for truth and justice and accountability in Cambodia. Documentation efforts and archives associated with these sites have provided vital evidence in prosecuting Khmer Rouge officials. Argentina's memory spaces established in former detention centers during the country's dictatorship function as both memorials and also sites of activism. For instance, the ESMA memory space, housed in a former Navy mechanics schools where countless individuals were tortured, disappeared, serves a chilling reminder of the regime's atrocities. These sites not only honor the victims, but also provide crucial spaces for survivor testimonies and documentation efforts. They have been instrumental in bringing perpetrators to justice. Still, evidence are being collected from those sites, and they're fostering a culture of human rights in Argentina. I had the chance to visit most of those sites, and when I visited there, I was in the awe of the courage of the former victims, survivors who harnessed their pain into action, who created those sites despite all their traumas and the memory of the horrendous events that they have went through. All these people who dedicated their lives to tell the difficult truths and seek accountability are the partesiastes or paresias and the guardians of memory who make countless efforts to achieve justice and make the world a better place. 23.5 Hrant Site of Memory also functions as a space for justice seeking. 17 years have passed after Hrant Dink's assassination. It was a deep structure. Although there are 26 convicts, including police officers, intelligence agencies, the real perpetrators behind the murder, they have never been brought to justice. They are still free. The gunman was 17 years old, so below 18. He was a child, and he was released recently from the prison. Our quest for justice is continuing from the Hrant Dink Site of Memory. Each year, still, as I said, thousands of people gather in front of the building. Speeches are held, and the quest for justice is not only for the Hrant Dink trial. We have had other political assassinations in Turkey before Hrant Dink and after Hrant Dink, extrajudicial killings and forced disappearances. Our quest for justice is for all of them, because without justice, we know that there will be no peace and no democracy. Memory sites are also the places that render the invisible visible, that show the presence of absence, which encourages people to question things. In our memory site, we exhibit an interactive online map which features the cultural heritage structures built by non-Muslim minorities in Turkey, like Armenians, Greeks, Assyrians, and Jews. We feature almost 10,000 structures. And the map starts with a very simple question. Were there any Armenians in your hometown? And our visitors start to navigate city by city to see if there were any Armenian churches, Greek schools, or synagogues in their hometown. And they really have a striking experience as they find out that in the past, for instance, in their city, there were 10 churches. But now, most of them, they don't exist. Just as an example, today in Turkey, there are only 16 Armenian schools operating, only in Istanbul. And the number we reached from a century ago, the number of the schools were over 1,329, which tells us something, which shows that huge gap and incites us to ask this question: where have they gone? What is missing? And providing this information, making this information accessible matters and encourages our visitors to view the history from a different way, to seek that absence, and maybe to work towards rebuilding that memory. As I just mentioned, 2020 and a half is 5 years old now. Over the course of 5 years, we have welcomed thousands of visitors. We experienced many moving stories. Our spirit was uplifted with encounters that elevated our hope. On the occasion of its 5th anniversary, inspired by Armenian artist Sarkis's work, Respiro, we created a collaborative art installation that reflects a future filled with hope. We invited children of all ages to leave their fingerprints in the vibrant colors of the rainbow on a mirror. These colorful fingerprints now symbolize the unique mark each child makes on our world, creating hope for a colorful future. On the opposite side of the mirror, we designated our board that was filled with cards dedicated to the Armenian lives lost in 1915. We initiated the board for our visitors by placing the pictures and the names of the intellectuals detained on the eve of April 24th. The rest of the board was made available for our visitors to share their thoughts and feelings and to include the names and photos of their lost ones or whoever they wanted to commemorate. The presence of the mirror, which was filled with the fingerprints of children of all ages, symbolized our mark for the future. The memory board that was filled with thoughts, feelings, pictures, and names of the people was a reminder of the past. The reflection of the cards on the mirror with the colorful fingerprints told us something, and was the reflection of the feeling that 23 and a half evoked. Hard to define, yet easy to see and feel. I would like to end my speech with an anecdote. Years ago, a lady came to the memory site with her 15-year-old niece. They were not Armenians, and probably the 15-year-old teenager, she knew a little bit about Armenians or Hrant Dink. I was just observing her, whether she would stay long or not, and she spent almost 2 hours inside the site, listening most of the content. And at the exit, I asked her about her impressions, and she didn't speak much. She said she found the site interesting and impressive, and they left. And a couple of minutes after, they knocked the door. I opened it, and I was like, "Oh, did you forget something inside?" And she asked for a favor. Well, on each commemoration, we produce these round banners that people hold, on which it writes, "We are all Hrant Dink, we are all Armenian," or "For Hrant, for justice." She asked us whether she can have one of these banners because she wants to walk back home by holding that. That was a really moving moment, because we are always questioning about the impact of the site, the transformative aspect of the site. But the courage she showed was our hope. And hope walks hand in hand with the courage. Only those who hold on to help have the courage to act. It's the seed. Hope is the seed that gives birth to courage, and courage in turn nourishes hope. Together, we are all together. We can do that. We can cultivate the seeds we have sown and watch them blossom into a brighter future. Well, if we are still continuing, because many people are asking, how do you do that in Turkey despite all this in a political environment? Yes, we are maybe courageous, but if we are still continuing, it's for the sake of teenagers like her and people like her. We will continue our mission with perseverance, courage, and hope. And I salute all these people speaking truth to power about the atrocities of the past and atrocities now happening right in front of us. I'm saluting all these people showing solidarity with Ukraine, with people from Palestine, and all other human rights violations, victims of other human rights violations. And thank you very much for giving us this opportunity again today. I hope you visit our site, and I wanted to put a QR code of our memory site because it's available virtually as well in 2 languages. It's available in English as well, so if you want, you can just have the QR code. And I also have a small video at the end. Maybe we can start it in a bit so that you can get an idea about our memory site. Thank you. Thank you very much for listening.
caught up with telling a lie. Now you're leaving me lonely. I could get in my car, end up drunk at some bar, but that was the old me. Remember the night that we slept on the floor and you told me you loved me.
Good morning. Thank you so much to the previous speaker for speaking with such courage and hope about the work that you do, your practice, and sharing your journey with us. I very much appreciate it. My name is Sharon Heal. I'm the Director of the Museums Association in the UK. I'm also a trustee of the Thackeray Museum of Medicine in Leeds, which is in my home city, and I'm the chair of the Museum of Homelessness, a very new museum which is opening its public programme in a new venue later this month, and I will talk a little bit about their work in a moment. I'm also a trustee of the European Museum Forum. It's been an absolutely brilliant conference, I think, so far, and it's the big one tonight in terms of the prizes and awards. Best wishes and good luck to all the nominees, and thanks once again to the judges who have worked so hard to get us to this point. I have absolutely loved the emphasis on social inclusion and impact, and all of the examples that you have brought to the table. It's a subject that's very close to my heart. At the Museums Association, our flagship campaign is Museums Change Lives, and it has three simple tenets: that museums can enhance health and well-being, obviously with the caveat of Errol's words from yesterday, that might not apply to everyone, and we should think about how it can apply to everyone. That museums can create better places for us to live and work, and that museums can hold space for some of the difficult conversations that we need to have in society. We've had that campaign in place for the past 10 years, and we are updating it to incorporate some of our more recent campaigns that we have developed. Our work in supporting decolonisation in museums, our climate justice campaign, and most recently our anti-racist museum programme, which we hope will take museums on a journey to becoming anti-racist organisations. And thanks again to Errol, who has supported our work to create that programme. We've heard about the difference that museums can make, and I would echo Zandra's statements from yesterday about what social impact is. It's about outcomes. It's about the positive difference we can make working with our communities and being led by their needs. I hope this session is going to take that conversation to the next level, exploring what social justice means in a museum setting. There are different definitions of social justice, but for me, it's about seeking a fairer division of resources and opportunities. So how might that concept shape our museums' work and who they work with? If we stick to time, I very much hope there will be a chance for questions from the audience. So please listen hard to the presentations and think about questions that you might want to ask. I've also asked the panelists for practical takeaways, solid examples of museums delivering social justice. And I want to give one quick example of that from my practice. I mentioned that I'm the chair of the Museum of Homelessness, a very new and already award-winning museum. We're about to open our very first venue in Finsbury Park in North London, and you can see some of the images from the museum here. And we opened first with our community and not to the public, and that was an important signifier of the work that we do. We work with four simple pillars: that we make history, we educate, we take action, and we fight injustice. The way that we deliver social justice with our communities is linked to those four pillars. The objects form the centrepiece of our exhibition-making practice. We make history because we are a museum after all. But with the objects, we collect the stories. And each object comes with its story and will be performed by our object storytellers in the new space. We educate through our artistic collaborations. This image is of Justin, who was our poet in residence. We supported him to have studio time and to work with the producer to create an album. And that album is pieces reflecting on the objects in the museum. It can be found under surfing sofas on the internet. We fight injustice in many ways. We hold the Dying Homeless Project, which is a memorial site for those who have died homeless. And we publish information and data about that annually, and importantly, the stories of those individuals. And we take action. During the pandemic, we paused all of our museum activity to carry out direct delivery of food 7 days a week. And we also successfully campaigned for everyone in, which led to a change in public policy in the UK and opened hotel rooms to those that were homeless. So my takeaway is that you can be a museum, you can be an activist museum with your communities, and you can deliver social justice. So we're going to move now to our brilliant panel. We have Sarah Smed, who's the head of the Danish Welfare Museum, Errol Francis, who you met yesterday, the Chief Executive and Artistic Director of Culture and Ihor Poshyvailo, the co-founder of the Heritage Emergency Response Initiative and Director General of the Meyvaert Museum in Ukraine. Let's get started.
Please start the presentation, thank you. On the wall in my office hangs a picture of Richard. I got to know Richard as he collaborated with us at the museum, connecting past and present testimonies from people having experienced homelessness. Richard was in institutional care as a child. He was abused in his youth, homeless as an adult, struggling with mental and physical issues. He was also an activist. He was strong, clever, funny. He was warm-hearted and he was honest. Richard passed away 4 years ago. And I stand here in respect for him and so many others. Besides the picture of him in my office is a poem he wrote years ago. Before I knew him, it's not for me, but it's written to the countless of people who he had met during 5 decades in the welfare state system. This poem is, for me, a constant and extremely important reminder that it's also all too easy to think you do good, that you help, but if you want to engage in social justice work, then it's paramount not to do charity, but to collaborate in solidarity. In this presentation today, I'll give you a very brief insight into, I have 10 minutes max, into the work that we do in the Danish Welfare Museum, and especially why. The Danish Welfare Museum is a very small museum, but we have big ambitions to be a useful museum which creates real change and supports social justice in partnerships with an intergenerational and very diverse community, of whom most have experienced years and years of dehumanizing treatment in institutions and state welfare. Some are volunteers, others are members of staff, but all are viewed as treasured colleagues, as for example Richard. With them as partners, the museum is collaborating to address both personal and societal issues connected to institutionalized welfare. And also, we work to strengthen the social conscience of both politicians and of practitioners within the field of social work, and also for Danish society in general. The museum is placed, quite paradoxically, in a former work and poorhouse which was in function from 1872 and up until 1974. It is originally a pre-welfare initiative where people were placed behind barbed wire and bars, and where people were viewed as so-called unworthy, where they were excluded from society and where they lost their freedom and their civil rights. Now, we are turning the tables. We are using the site to support a process of making us making our visitors understand what can happen if we do not safekeep the original core values and socio-political ideas that formed the vision of the Danish welfare state. We are doing this with a museum community where people with lived experiences from, for example, homelessness, from children's homes, people who have experienced poverty, disability, and mental health issues are contributing to both the very operating of the museum itself, but also to developing our museum practice, where they, as a community with us, do co-research, where they co-curate, where they co-produce exhibitions, and where they, with us, develop new educational programs and many other things. Over the last decade, they have become a we, and together we are creating a museum initiative which is for change. We engaged in social justice initiatives relevant to the issues that we as a museum, because that is what we are, where we do research and where we do dissemination. We do it to develop an activist museum where we join forces in exploring process of both personal but also of systemic change. We do it to challenge the establishment with its hierarchy, with its power structures, and with its systemic knowledge. And why? Why are we doing this? Well, because, and here's a quote, I hope you will recognize it, because there is something rotten in the state of Denmark. It is not all Legoland, Hans Christian Andersen fairy tales, or Carlsberg. The Danish welfare state is under pressure, economically, structurally, and ethically. Inequality in Denmark is skyrocketing, and Danish society is increasingly polarized, and human rights are being challenged. And now to some examples of how we then do this social justice in action. I have 3 examples, and they were hard to choose, but I've chosen 3. Example 1, we have carried out research projects that were part of national inquiries into conditions for people placed in children's homes or in institutions for people with mental or physical disabilities. In both reports, we documented large-scale abuse and neglect, and the reports made basis for national apologies. As part of both reports, we decided to try to support a process to support social justice and systemic change led by co-produced exhibitions with our informants, as we call the people collaborating with us in this research project, who, for example, describe the years-long and very unequal fight for the apologies and for the public recognition for their stories. We did it by co-producing educational initiatives for students going to work within the field of the welfare sector, thereby supporting, hopefully, furthering an insight too. We do it by co-hosting socio-political events with survivors of these institutions. Another example found its origin in a need from people who have been in care as children and who want to read the records that the system wrote about them. Countless times the museum has been contacted by people asking us for help to identify and locate their records, but they didn't know how, they didn't know who to turn to, and they didn't know who to trust. So together with the Danish National Archive, a university college training social workers and organizations run by people who have been in care as children, we are now running a project called The Right to Your Own Story, Retten til din egen historie in Danish. Here, amongst a lot of other things, we are striving to ensure that children in care today, or who have been in care, are informed of their legal rights to access their records, that people are provided with support while reading their records, and that they can comment them, and that they can challenge their records. We also support a process where children placed in care today are given the opportunity to participate themselves actively in generating their own records. And lastly, that child welfare records for the future will be written in a manner that is perceived as much more respectful. Is this typical museum work? No, not really. Is it needed and relevant in Danish society? Yes, very much so. Does it make a difference? Yes. For example, for a man, and I'll give a concrete example, a man like Per, who found out that he has in total been admitted to 26 different institutions, 80 different times, and who is now one of our most treasured volunteers. Per has a very unique way of describing what this process has meant for him. It means that it's easier for me to put my memories in the right places. Another example is Vibeke, who through the records we located with her is now fighting for compensation for the abuse both she and others have experienced. One last example is our exhibition, newest exhibition, Placed in Care, which is co-curated with different generations of people who have been or still are in care. And I say care, which is probably not always the right description, but I hope you get the point. Developing this exhibition, we decided to challenge prejudice with them and stigma that children in care often still experience. But it turned out extremely important for our co-curators with lived experiences to exemplify also what they term superpowers that people going through the welfare state care system can develop. As for example, super hearing, the superpower of hearing as children both what is said but also what is unsaid. Or the superpower to tell the difference between people who will do you harm and people who will treat you kindly. Together, we also decided to initiate different types of, we call them call to actions, making our visitors reflect on the ethical dilemmas connected to institutionalized care. The input in these different call to actions are collected, and we compile them and we hand them over to our community partners, Smed is one of them, who use this input as part of their own socio-political work, both in Parliament or at the museum. And now to sum up, the common denominators for the way that we work with social justice are anchored in both indignation and in hope for change. We are investigating our uncomfortable past and troubled present to create change for the future, and this holds an inherent paradox. For the more under pressure the Danish welfare state is, the more useful and relevant our museum becomes. I will just finish with a few short comments regarding what is, in my view, crucial in social justice initiatives. It must be heartfelt, it must be relevant, it must be genuine, and it must not be short-termed and project-based. I have another one, and then I'll leave stage. I just wanted to say way too many of the people that museums, including ours and yours, that we need to and should join forces with, they have experienced way too many charitable projects with tokenism and with well-meaning, but not a lot of standing shoulder to shoulder in an authentic, respectful, and long-term process. Thank you.
Hello again, good morning. Does it change? Do I change this? Okay. Ooh. No? Oh, right. Okay, so I've wanted to start with a definition. Last night, Sharon and I were talking about this term, social justice. It's not as self-evident, I think, as it sounds. But the definition that I've landed on is about equal economic, political, and social rights and opportunities, and self-realization through compassion and classless, this was when I started reading Marx, cooperation without violence and without oppression. So that's the terminology, that's the definition that I thought of. Surprisingly few people that are engaged in these activities call what they're doing social justice, which is quite interesting. And probably still less museums, but Sarah's museum, I think, is an exception. There is one museum, though, that does use this term, and it's the Van Abbe Museum in Eindhoven, which is a really interesting museum, and they've had programs that engage with refugees, asylum seekers, and they have also done what I was talking about yesterday, which is diversified their curatorial workforce. They long ago they had a wonderful curator called Ezra Sarajidek Oktem, but I wanted to push this a little bit further by choosing an example that pushes the notion of what a museum is, as well as trying to address social justice. So I've decided to look at two examples from London. This one is the Empathy Museum, but it's a museum that doesn't have a collection as such, nor does it have a location or permanent building. It's basically a series of art installations that began in 2015, and I think it addresses one of the issues in the definition that I spoke about, which is about compassion and understanding other people. Its purpose is to help visitors to view the world through the perspectives of others, using participatory storytelling and dialogue. It tries to help people to approach global issues such as prejudice, conflict, and inequality by expressing empathy to change relationship. They have a weekly podcast called A Mile in My Shoes that was started in 2018. The project was actually started by a philosopher, Roman Krznaric, and is directed by an artist called Claire Patey. Now, they've had a number of different projects where they try to engage people with empathy. One of them, which is the photograph that you can see here, they use these portable containers, shipping containers that get converted. And this one is called 1001 Books. And it's a crowdsourced collection of 1001 books. Each book in the library has been donated by someone who loves that book. And they've got various notable authors who are featured there. The books can be taken out by the public and then passed on to other people and not returned. And I thought this was a really interesting way of a collection that basically dissolves itself. It doesn't want to keep these things, which I think is really interesting. The other project, which engages with the idea of the book and also the idea of the object and the subject that I was speaking about yesterday, is the human library. And instead of borrowing a book, you can borrow a person for a conversation, a person who has an experience. And you can actually speak to this living book, as it were, of a person who will tell a story about their life and discuss it in an interactive way with a member of the public who's actually visiting the installation. Each human library is centered around a different theme, including food, home, aging, and social issues. They've presented these interventions in various locations in London, in Australia, and other parts of the world. This is another one of their projects. It's called A Mile in My Shoes, and it's a travelling shoe shop, as it were, with 350 pairs of shoes and audio stories collected by the Empathy Museum. Visitors are invited to walk a mile in a pair of these shoes, and while they're walking, they listen to a story about the shoe owner's life through a pair of headphones. At each location it travels to, the museum collects stories and more stories and shoes from local people, and sometimes the iterations of the project centre around certain themes. These can include stories about migration, social care, refugees, young people, and so on. And once again, it's been presented in various parts of the world, in England, Belgium, Australia, Ireland, Brazil, Scotland, the USA, Latvia, Slovenia, Italy, Germany, and Romania. I think this is a really interesting way of dealing with, promoting or engaging people with social justice, but doing it in a really interactive and experiential way. The next example is actually related to my team. Somebody from this organisation, I'm proud to say, actually works in my team at Culture and as our wellbeing officer. And it's an organisation called Mayday Room. So it's an archive and another type of collection, if you like, of objects. But this one is an activist collection of records, and it really tries to address the blind spots in mainstream collections, you know, national archives, or even if you know, institutional archives. For example, the Tate has a huge archive, but what story does it tell? And it's that old adage about history being written by the victors. So there are various experiences in historical events that don't get recorded in mainstream archives, and this is what Mayday Rooms does. It addresses a lack of trust in the archival care and practices of contemporary institutions, as well as suspicion that of their motives and interests. And one of the backgrounds to this is the disappearance of archives that have been donated by artists and activists and that haven't been properly cared for. So Mayday Room addresses this gap, and it started in the 1990s and has gradually built up this collection. It's located right in the middle of London on Fleet Street, which is quite an interesting location because it used to be the centre of the newspaper industry, and you can say that that's another type of official memory of, that presents a certain view of the world, which is not necessarily all of our own. But eventually, yeah, in 2014 it got going, and its aim is to safeguard histories and documents of radicalism and resistance by connecting them with contemporary struggles and protests and developing new and freer forms of dissemination and collective self-education. The building offers communal spaces. It's really homely and welcoming space. You can see there people, and unlike if you go to the National Archives, you know, and it's like going into a police station, you know, you can actually, you know, get the archive boxes out and you can look at them and engage with them. There's a meeting room, a screening room, a large kitchen and a roof terrace, and they're used by a wide range of cultural, political and activist groups. The building is a melting pot, and it where a diverse range of people can mix and get to know each other while telling each other about their documenting and learning about different histories. So the core work of Mayday Rooms is to activate radical and experimental historical material, primarily through collaborative education, informal research, digitization, and online distribution. And they're actively collecting from people who've been involved in past and present social movements, actions, and interventions. One of the collections that they've recently acquired is really interesting, and this is one of the documents from the archives, and it's an archive assembled by a film curator called June Giovanni, and it's called the Pan-African Film Archive, and Mayday Rooms has recently acquired this archive. For those of you that are interested in the movies, June Giovanni, incredibly, was given a BAFTA award, which is the next thing down from, you know, like the Oscars, as it were. But even so, that she got this prestigious award, she really didn't feel that there was any institution, normally we have the British Film Institute, which normally, a collection like that might have gone to. But really interestingly is that Mayday Rooms have acquired the archives. They're looking after that archive. And what's lovely about Mayday Rooms, they have a screening room as well, where the films can be shown. And June has a regular programme of film screenings. So that's it, really. These are the two examples I wanted to present to you of different ways of addressing social justice and challenging the mainstream model of museums and official archives. I look forward to your questions later. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It's my great pleasure and honor to join this remarkable forum, and thank you for this opportunity. It's not easy to speak about social justice in times of war. According to recent statistic in a survey in Ukraine, what Ukrainians will choose if they can select freedom or social justice, and most 75% will choose freedom. But we understand that freedom is a constituent part of justice, and we cannot build sustainable peace without justice, social justice. So let me start by stressing that it is deeply symbolic to me that the great Nelson Mandela, who is remembered by history as an invincible proponent of social justice, freedom, and democracy, ended his earthly life exactly at the time when the Kyiv Euromaidan revolution was multiplying its first barricades on the other continent in the heart of Europe. It is as if we, Ukrainians, took up the symbolic light of dignity and rights. According to foreign evaluations of Euromaidan, or simply Maidan, or Revolution of Dignity, a new nation was born in Ukraine with intrinsic political belief in social justice, democracy, and liberty. Strategically, in that time, Ukraine turned its back to its past, to the prison of nation, which was used to name Soviet Union, and turned its face towards civilized countries by initiating decolonization processes. The winter of 2013-2014 in Ukraine demonstrated social responsibility, a real hunger for justice, civic and community engagement, a burst of cultural activism, and deep sacrifice for human democratic values. To commemorate the peaceful protesters killed in that period and preserve artifacts and stories behind this, displayed in different ways, the unprecedented movement, which lasted 94 days, the biggest protest in Europe, whatever. Several public initiatives launched a joint project, the Maidan Museum, which was expanded to the national institution in 2016, 2 years later. Presently, our challenge is not only to preserve the collection and to build the building, the premises for the museum, and to make the stories available for the broad public and professionals, for research and reflections, promoting democratic discourse and narratives of freedom. But for us, it's important to turn the Maidan Museum as an interdisciplinary platform for preserving the memory of the fight for freedom in Ukraine's recent history into a dialogue and reconciliation institution that will represent multiple points of view and be relevant in form and content to various audiences and generations. And you can see here in the slide our space program for the future, 6-story, 27,000 square meters building, and only 30% are for permanent and temporary exhibition. The rest space is for public activities. So our institution has 3 components: a memorial, a museum, and a civil rights center, which addresses issues of memory, dialogue, justice, activism, and social responsibility. In 2022, we were ready to start construction of the 6-story building of the Maidan Museum in the political, cultural, and symbolic heart of Ukraine, its downtown. But the Russian-Ukrainian military conflict, expanded by brutal Putin's aggression into a large-scale war on February 24. The museum continues to collect artifacts, documents, and oral testimonies, and display them on exhibitions in Ukraine and abroad, and provide field expeditions, educational programs, academic forums, discussions, and capacity-building workshops. The Maidan Museum, the Maidan Revolution was the first response to Russia's open aggression toward Ukraine in 2015. The Kremlin regime does not try to hide the fact that their invasion was revenge for the Maidan events and for the choice of the Ukrainian nation to move towards a civilized and democratic future. Now we have not only military, informational, energetical, and humanitarian front lines, we have the cultural front lines. And let me briefly come through some of our programs. Of course, our collection policy changed. Our exhibition focus changed because of the war. But also, of course, we have memorial space, which also transforms, and we tell the story not about the important past, but about the important future. It's briefly, but let me come again. Also, as a part of our program, and in connection to the social justice, we founded the Protest Arts Gallery, having only temporary spaces at the moment. But coming back to the current situation, we have cultural front lines, as the Kremlin's missiles, air bombs, tanks, and forbidden by international conventions weapons are targeted not only at our land, military and civil infrastructures, but at our identity, our historical memory, and our future as a nation. This is a heritage war. This is a values war. And at present, we have to fight for our past and the future. Immediately after February 24 in 2022, the Ukrainian cultural sector, as you may know, quickly self-organized. The newly created public and volunteer initiative strived to protect their collections and premises and helped others, coordinating efforts at different levels and providing support to people, to institutions, to local and even central governments. A few weeks after the large-scale invasion, the Maidan Museum with its partners founded the Heritage Emergency Response Initiative, briefly HERI, to protect Ukrainian cultural heritage as a part of world legacy and make our communities more resilient and bring justice earlier or later to Ukraine. And let me briefly share what we do at the HERI. Please, video.
Врятувати мистецтво від війни.
Зберегти цінні музейні експонати намагаються у штабі порятунку спадщини.
Окупанти гатять прицільно по пам'ятках архітектури, по музеях, по наукових установах, бібліотеках, по церквах.
Thank you. And in conclusion, let me remind you one more symbolic fact. In 1961, Moscow communist leader Nikita Khrushchev declared that Russian missiles would destroy the Acropolis in Athens, if necessary, for the achievement of Russian goals. The Greek Prime Minister replied to the Kremlin dictator that Moscow could destroy the Acropolis with its weapons, but would never be able to destroy the idea of democracy and personal freedom that had been born there. So today, with their courage and determination, with international support, the Ukrainians prove once again the truthfulness of this response. I'm so grateful to our armed forces, to my cultural heritage colleagues, to the whole nation for this opportunity to express our deepest appreciation of the international, your support and standing with Ukraine. And I strongly believe that museums have not only power to promote democracy, as it was mentioned at the opening of EMYA forum a few days ago, but to defend, to protect democracy. Thank you so much. Obrigado.
Wow, thank you to the panel, to those fantastic presentations, really solid takeaways for us in terms of how museums can deliver social justice, working with their communities and be sites of social conscience. I just want to see if we've got the roving mics in the room. We should, yes, we have. And can I see any hands for any questions to any of the speakers or any thoughts? Well, yes, thank you, in the middle there.
Hi, do we want to say who we are?
Yes, please.
I'm Tony Butler, I'm the director of Derby Museums. I just want to say what a great panel that you've put together, from the personal to the community to the nation. It's a really good mix, so thank you. So I've got a question, probably more geared towards Sarah, but I think it might be relevant to others, and it's about power and influence. So my kids have been through the care system and for many years, and talking about super hearing is something that really resonates with especially my daughter. But one of the things we do as museums is to try and promote justice to our audiences, but what about to the people who hold the real power? So one of the challenges of our family is the people that wield the power, social workers, the police. So I wonder how far the influence of your organisations can be to training and educating people with real power. There's a limit to what we can do as museum people, but it's how do you influence the authorities?
Thank you, Tony. Sarah, do you want to begin on that? How do we actually make change with the people who wield power?
Thank you for also stating, Tony, that what I thought of including in my presentation, but because of the time thing, decided not to, but I'll say it here. This part of Danish heritage history that I am involved in is, we cannot see it as the other people's history. It is our history, and it's also my history, Tony, and it's yours. So thank you for also stating that fact. I'll answer by an example. We have a local, Denmark is not that big, but one of the third largest school training social workers. Every one of their social worker in their early stages of their training go to the museum for a full day course, and they are doing an educational program which we co-created with people with lived experiences of different ages. And it was important for us as a key message in this program to exemplify for these early students of social working, the professionalism in that, how quickly they become embedded in having prejudice towards the people that they are supposed to help, but that they, from the very early stages, think that they have all the answers. So when they come to the museum, they do a lot of different initiatives, but the key message for us to give to them is try to ask, try to be open, try to listen to what the children, youngsters, adults, elderly, people of all different backgrounds, what actually are their wishes, desires for their own life, and don't think you have all the answers, but that is what they start off with. So to answer all of these students, they come to the museum, and I hope that is one of the teachers actually said, I listened in because I did one of these programs, and I heard this teacher say to her students when they came to the museum, because I'm doing the course along with a person with lived experience, and this teacher said, dear students, please take this in. This is the only time in your training that you will actually meet the people it's about without having to help them. So that is one way, and it's not easy because people in higher power, they, we are striving to have them come to the museum too, and sometimes they do that.
Thank you, Sarah, and thanks for that question, Tony, and sharing your experience. I just wanted to widen that question a little bit, because one thing I thought we have in common here is dealing with trauma. And you mentioned that yesterday, Errol, and obviously, Ihor, there's the very evident trauma of war. Could either of you just expand a little on how maybe you deal as a museum in your work, Ihor, on with people who are evidently traumatized, and also how you look after yourself and your staff in that space?
It's a good issue and good question. And really, we understand that historical distance is quite short between the event and our attempts to document. And for us, it was a big challenge how to musificate the hot history, how to tell the story with multi-narrative, inclusive perspective. And in this connection, we understand that we are at the moment of so-called communicative memory, the memory of us, the memory of evidences, the memory of people who were part of that traumatic event. And earlier or later, at least 3-4 generations, there are different estimations, 50 years at least needed to transform this communicative memory into cultural memory, when it will be one narrative developed, narrative which will be accepted by different groups. And at this moment, the challenge is that a lot of different groups, individuals, groups on different levels, horizontally and vertically, I mean, politicians also, they have their own interpretations of the events. And in this situation, it's not easy to approach and to tell the truth, their reality, but the only one way to get off trauma is, of course, dialogue, and it was brilliantly discussed today, dialogue. At least, I remember Elaine Gurian is quite a famous person who created a lot of museums of so-called bad news, especially museums of Holocaust in different continents. She came to Ukraine a few months after Maidan ended, and she said that, okay, you should not listen. You should listen to everyone. You should bring people to one table, but you should take your own decision. And the role of museums also is not only to listen and to reflect to some interests of the groups or vision. We should be a kind of orientation. We should also help people to find the most important, the most effective way of getting off trauma, or of creating the narrative which will help the society to consolidate, to be united, to be strong after traumatic event.
Thank you, Ihor. Errol, I know some of the work that you have described triggers trauma for your, it's the button there. triggers trauma for the staff that you work with. But also you try to influence, to Tony's question, you try to influence the wider museum sector and maybe beyond. Do you want to just expand a little on that?
Yeah, I was kind of still preoccupied with the question. Tony, did you use the word training people? You did? Yeah, and I was really kind of grappling with that idea and the old adage about teaching old dogs new tricks, and whether or not it's a question of challenging more than training, actually, and that sometimes some people or some regimes are unchangeable, and it's a fight, it's a struggle, and you've got to get rid of them, basically. But going back to trauma, in our work, we're so aware of the transgenerational nature of it that people in the present can feel trauma from the past, and it's a very strange experience, actually, that I think has come out with the struggles over statues, the sort of passion that people have, and the real, upsetness, the kind of psychological distress, of seeing, like, this is a project that I'm working with, a statue in one of the most important parts of London of a man who enslaved people in the area where my family is from, right? And then I'm asked to actually get involved in a project to reinterpret this statue. I mean, it's crazy, the whole thing. There's one question of looking after myself and my staff, and that's the Mayday Room's example is one of the members of my staff who actually works in the Mayday Rooms, and she's our wellbeing officer. And so we've got various events and processes where we try to look after ourselves and recognise the pain of the work that we're doing. But then there's another level of it, to just give you another example of how complicated these traumatic things are. We're doing another project with Lloyd's of London, the insurance company. It started off as a research project with Johns Hopkins University of Portimão, looking into the archives of Lloyd's and how they went about insuring slave ships in the 17th and up to the 19th century. And it was just absolutely disgusting, to get these underwriting books, they're called, in the insurance trade, where they value the lives of people on the ship. They put a price on them, they put a price on the ship itself, and then they assess the risk of whether or not this human cargo will arrive at its destination. Now, you can look at this research on a website called underwritingsouls.org, but after we finished the research, we just thought, is this really enough to expose this horror? And the project then turned into a commission for a piece of music, a requiem, and it's being written now by a composer. We commissioned this composer, and we felt that this art form was more restorative than actually looking at these records in an archive. And so we're going to perform this piece of music in the Lloyd's building in October this year. Then it will go on tour, and so I'm just sort of trying to explain the complexity of it. It's very multi-layered.
It's incredibly multi-layered, and very much appreciate the work that you, all of the panel, are doing. I think, in answer to your question, Tony, one of the things that Museum of Homelessness does in terms of its approach is there is training for staff in trauma-informed approaches, but also we sort of, the way we describe the work is we work in the system, so we will support community to access benefits and work within the system, but we work around the system as well. So where those approaches don't work, we'll work with other grassroots organisations who find different ways of navigating the system. Are there any more questions from the audience, if I can see any hands?
Hello, Meyvaert from the Jewish Museum, Frankfurt. I have a question that relates to the trauma question, and that has to do with emotions. all issues that you are addressing have high emotions that have to do with anger, with fear, and telling a story evokes emotion, expresses emotion. How do you deal with emotions in your museums?
I'll give you two examples. One is connected to the exhibition Placed in Care, which I briefly touched upon. In the room that you finish your visit to the exhibition, we have decided to end with a "What can you do?" Because going through the exhibition, it's different. Intergenerational examples of experiences connected to being institutionalized as a child. For example, how is it to fall asleep on your own for the very first night in a room full of beds, and this loneliness and so on. The emotions connected to that lying in that bed are the same whether it's in the late 1900s, mid-20th century, or 2024. Loneliness is loneliness. And so we have different examples of this through the exhibition. And the end room, we try to exemplify what, for the first and foremost, what have survivors from children's homes done to deal with their own difficult past, and what can you then do to act to support? So there are, should you contact an organization that supports children in foster care? Should you be politically active and so on? Giving concrete examples of what can you do as a fellow citizen to act. And another example is we have the museum is, as I also showed in this former work and poorhouse, it is not built to be a museum. It is highly complicated. And just where do we place the museum ticket office and the little cafe and so on? At the moment, the only place it was possible to place it is in the middle of the museum. So it's not where you just enter or just leave, but it's in the heart of the museum. And that means that a lot of our visitors actually engage with our museum staff in the front room staff. And our front room staff are also, most of them, survivors. And they are there by choice, and they can, if they want to, because people come in there and they, this is so moving, and I'm so sad, and so on. They can take that opportunity and have a talk about, if they want to, their own personal story, or reflect in a historical person's story, but end the conversation in, well, what can you then do? So the whole way of creating more agency also for our visitors is a way of dealing with the difficult emotions, because they're there and they should be there, but we should say goodbye to our visitors with the sense that they can also do something to change the system from where they are.
This question is so relevant to our situation because the trauma is still very, very hot. And of course, a lot of families, and it's typical, are very angry sometimes. They have these negative emotions which are connected to the losses. And we have provided a kind of research between 9/11 and our museum development of memorial. And we have seen very similar processes. So it depends even not upon society, continent, country. It's very natural, it's human. And speaking about emotions, some museums even strive to evoke emotions of their visitors. But if we speak about negative emotions, we try to transform them into positive. We try to invite the families, because the families are the most active group of stakeholders who influence. In many, even the groups of veterans, sometimes in Smithsonian, they stopped some projects because of their own vision. So these are the most active groups of stakeholders. We try to communicate with them, we try to listen to them, and we kind of a filter. It's not easy. but we listen to them. We try to persuade them that we are partners and we are the most interested in preserving the story, and let us be partners. And tactically, for example, not strategically, tactically, we invite them to participate in different commemoration events, for example, very simple activities like planting the trees or flowers, or doing some commemoration ritual breaths, for example, for Easter, engaging them and trying to make them our family. Speaking about as I mentioned before, transform the negative into positive, not theoretically. Because in my context, Euromaidan was not only about killings, not only about trauma. It's the final stage. It's also about the solidarity of people, about their unity, about their courageousness. And there are a lot of very positive, and we try to make accent on this positive, transform from grief, from negative to positive. Try to understand them that the losses were not for vain, and the sacrifice is for something much more higher, for the future, for the freedom, for some great values, and it really worthwhile. And in dialogues, sometimes we manage to transform negative emotions into positive.
I mean, that's such a complex question, in fact. You know, when you say, how do we deal with emotion, the first thing I think you've got to identify is whose emotions are we talking about? Because it's not one, they're not coming from one direction. Some of them are historical emotions. There are emotions of the present. There are the victims, they're the perpetrators, for example. So going back to the example I gave about the statue, there's a whole discourse in the UK, not just in the UK, I mean in various parts of the world, especially former colonial nations, that these statues represent positive developments in the history of these nations. You know, so whether we're talking about Captain Cook in Melbourne, or Robert E. Lee in Charlottesville in the United States, or Cecil Rhodes, you know, there's a whole discourse protecting and saying this is our history. How dare you criticize it? So that's one set of emotions. Then you've got people in the present, the passion of the students, the community in Bristol, for example, in relation to the statue of Edward Colston. And then I think there are the emotions that come down from history itself, the victims, the perpetrators who can't speak anymore, and you're kind of dealing with that sort of transgenerational emotion that you sort of sense reading in books. I mean, one of the statues, going back to this statue that I was talking about, there are two. There's the present version of it, right, that's in the Guildhall in London, of this guy called Beckford, right, lauding himself as this sort of, important person. And then there's a drawing. When we were doing the interpretation, we found a drawing of the original version of it, and the original version of it has him with his foot on the back of an African man, right? And this version didn't get built, right? So there's the emotion of him, how dare he do that? And how do we deal with the arrogance of that, So it's so complicated, this thing about emotions and how you actually navigate it.
Thank you to the panel. I'm afraid we're out of time. We started a little late, but we are going to have to conclude now. But I think we've had a fantastic conversation. I very much appreciated your presentations and your contribution, and personally I'm taking a lot from it in terms of the agency for our communities that we give them, the idea of collaboration and solidarity, and also the understanding of the complexity. Will you please give a big hand to our panel?
Thank you so much for the little shout out. So, while everybody is slowly getting to their seats, just some thoughts after tomorrow. So we started the morning with some incredible museum colleagues hearing about their drive To grab the urgencies of today and use the spaces of museum and heritage work to make a change, with a strong embodied and personal motivation to push through, sometimes against all odds. The challenges of today know many stories and roads connected to choices made in the past. And we have to deal with our historical selves. The next museum tackles another contemporary issue. I remember back in the Netherlands the heated discussions about the cow flats or the small family farmers heading for the streets protesting as they feel threatened in their livelihood due to regulations to tackle climate issues. It is a pleasure to introduce here the Swiss Museum of Agriculture Burgrain, Meyvaert Museum Award of the Environmental Sustainability winner in 2023. This award goes to a museum which shows an exceptional commitment to reflecting and addressing issues of sustainability and environmental health in its collecting, documentation, displaying, and public programming as well, as in the management of its own social, financial, and physical resources. With the renewed narrative, the museum showcases commitment and promotion of environmental sustainability, aiming to raise awareness and encourage responsible behavior towards the environment in the entire region. It invites its visitors to explore agriculture and food production through a wide range of exhibitions and activities in a holistic approach. At the intersection of past and future, the current issues of agriculture are presented and explored, historical and present debates challenging the visitors to engage and rethink, both local communities and beyond, to make them aware of where food comes from, what resources are used to grow it, and how much we waste. During the visit, young and older encounter an open depot with a great collection, a nature garden, organic farm, and an interactive exhibition to gain this way a deeper understanding of the relationship between people and nature. Playful, but at the same time thought-provoking on today's challenges of consumers' behavior and climate change, planning a future together. I would like to have a warm applause for Catherine Blasman, Director of the Museum. Catherine.
Thank you very much, Daniëlle, for introduction. Yeah, what to see more? To gain the Meyvaert Prize for Environmental Sustainability, it was both an honor and an incentive for us. Dear conference participants, Euros, and organizing team of the annual conference, thank you very much for the opportunity to talk about sustainability at the Swiss Museum of Agriculture, Burgrain. So, how sustainable is the Swiss Agriculture Museum? This is not a complete treatise on sustainability on museums. I would like to report on some specific aspects of sustainability, especially on ecological, economic, and social sustainability. Ecological sustainability includes, for example, the issues of energy production and use, air conditioning technology, the exhibitions, and the multiplier function. The building that houses the new exhibition, Whose Agriculture, was realized by another foundation. They use the ground floor with the distribution center for organic products with various cold storage rooms. The museum is a tenant of the upper floor, which houses the main exhibition, approximately 1,800 square meters. A school kitchen, as well as shared rooms such as a foyer and seminar room. The ground floor also houses the reception area and office, the museum shop, and the museum cafe. The entire building is constructed of wood, which provides both structural and thermal insulation, For example, vertical wooden profiles provide shade in summer. This reduces the need for air conditioning. As you can see here in this picture. There's also a 1,445 square meter photovoltaic system on the roof, which supplies a part of the building's energy needs. And heating is mainly provided by the exhausted air of the cooled storages. To come to the exhibition, the content of the new main exhibition has already been jointly developed by a wide range of people, many of them associated with the museum, members of the foundation board and the Association of Friends, farmers, researchers in the field of agronomy, biology, chemistry, and education, but also teachers, politicians, and so on. They shared a common vision and goals for the exhibition. The vision is a sustainable and fair agriculture as an intact basis for life worldwide in now and in the future. Agriculture should provide sufficient food for the dignified and healthy development of all life forms. The aims are to present a variety of perspectives to enable formation of opinions and participation in the discourses and to promote dialogue. The new exhibition consists of focal points on current agriculture topics. Historical equipment is arranged according to the topics, and historical photos showing how the historical equipment was used. In particular, the photos taken by the museum founder Ernst Brunner show what life was like in the countryside in his day, with young children had to spread very heavy manure on the fields, for example. The 10 focal points include, for example, the effects of surface treatment on the soil, on the on-soil life through compaction, erosion, and sealing. Another focal point is the material flow in soil, water, and air with the effects through pesticides. The value of biodiversity to society and the impact of agricultural practices on biodiversity are illustrated with the web of life you can walk on. As you can see here down on the picture. The globalization of agriculture and its social and ecological consequences can be illustrated using frequently purchased products on a sushi conveyor belt. The wood used in the new building comes mainly from neighboring forests. Special exhibitions are mainly traveling exhibitions from other museums, which are then added. The material used for special exhibitions and education are reused or recycled wherever it is possible. The museum cafe offers almost exclusively organic products, and the cafe is, of course, fair trade organic product. All areas related to agriculture come together on the Burgrain site. There's production which can be directly explored on the neighboring organic farm and on the agricultural demonstration area. The processing of agricultural product can be experienced in the cheese processing, meat processing, restaurant with a bakery, and the museum's school kitchen. The distribution of the products can be seen in the distribution center for organic products and in the farm store. The educational programs for schools are geared towards education for sustainable development. Teachers can download free teaching materials from our website, which are available in German and in French as well. The teaching materials have been developed in collaboration with the Lucerne University of Teacher Education. A different crop is grown each year from on the agricultural demonstration area. Friends of old agricultural machinery can, for example, harvest different variety of potatoes together with families, and the families can take the potatoes home. We have developed a workshop program for vocational school students where they can work with experts such as farmers, chefs, or representatives of NGOs to find solutions to current problems in agriculture. Bless you. Oh. Am I right? Oh, yeah. Since the reopening in 2022, the museum has been open all year round, except for the 2 old unheated buildings. The number of visitors has increased every year since then, despite the fact that the museum is located 30 kilometers from a larger city, Lucerne. Income from the ticket sales for admission and events, contribution from the Friends Association, rentals, the museum shop and cafe, as well as the donations are also increasing. However, despite a very small staff, the costs cannot be covered. Financial support for operating costs from the canton and the government is necessary. With our support, the Foundation's Board of Trustees has been fighting for years for financial contribution from the Canton of Lucerne and the government. The Canton Lucerne is currently offering to contribute to the operation costs, but it's far too little. It's still uncertain whether the state will pay anything at all. The many different participants bring together many different perspectives for the exhibition. And the events, such as workshops, panel discussions, and farm tours. The museum team is very diverse in terms of age, structure, and professional background. However, the team is much smaller than in comparable museums, with all team members only working part-time. This means that we all work a lot of overtime and there's little opportunity for further training. Nevertheless, not all museums' tasks can be done. To sum up, so how sustainable is the Swiss Museum of Agriculture Burgrain? The ecological sustainability is very well, but the economic sustainability is not yet guaranteed. This also means that there's still a lot to be improved in terms of social sustainability. We very much hope that the museum will be able to build its future and interact with the society. I would like to thank you for your attention, the jury and the organizing team, including the technicians, for their great work. And good luck to all the nominees. Obrigada.
So, and now some words about a mystery that will be solved very soon. Stay tuned. Look, we have the EMYA Awards, thanks to the really hard work of the judges. We have the national correspondence, which now from the EMF we are trying to extend to all over Europe. We have the discussion about how to protect more and more the museums in Europe in collaboration with the Council of Europe and other organizations. And then we have the hosts. The European Museum Forum tried to find always the best hosts for the moment. And for 2025, we are now in talks. We are talking with a very interesting proposal that we will prefer to tell you about it when it's already consolidated. Well, imagine that the 50 years of the awards is not far. So we thought that it was very important after Portimão, the house of EMYA, which was quite evident, we had to come here sometime, that the next 3 years must be really a composition from the side of the hosts of this will of being present in Europe through the quality of its museums. I was very impressed by the explanation on how the heritage and collections are saved in Ukraine. It's incredible how in time of war, what before the war was quite evident, a symbol of the past, present, and future, becomes something that must be socially saved and internationally helped. So these two legs from the community to Europe, in the world, through the museums, as protected as possible through legislation. Then we want to push from the MF, as I told you, to the Council of Europe and with other institutions, is also present in this question of having our next places, next venues for the conference. Very soon, you will have information in our webpage, and let's go and prepare your friends, the people you know, the institutions you have heard about, to present their candidacies so that we can have next year. Judges are already preparing it. This afternoon they have a hard meeting to prepare it. We have next year the incredible occasion to meet again in another city, building Europe. And that's just the introduction of what's coming now, which is the certificates. And the certificate ceremony is not only a formal thing. It's the collective assessment that here we are in a difficult world fighting for museums. So let's go with the certificate ceremony and see you later.
Dear colleagues, EMYA 2024 is ending soon, but in the same way it's starting in this moment. All the reflections are our impressions, but we do now ending with to give the the certificate. I think it's the end of a process. You started the application, you hosted the judges, you presented here, and now we like to give you the certificate, and then we start the party quite soon.
Hi.
So we go. We have it in our minds,
yeah, but
the alphabetical
we'll
order
yes.
of all the nominees. And when we call you, your institution, please come on the stage. We hand over this very nice document and we do a photo. And in the end, we need a group photo. And I think there is a photographer doing this photo, but we think you all are photographers and you all in the audience can also do a photo of the group, and then we surely have a very nice photo of the group. So we start with?
Yeah, we just need the certificates.
Oh yes. So we have to bridge the time. You know a joke maybe?
No, I'm very bad in joke.
So the certificates were printed, and now they're here.
Here we are. Yes. Oh, Pedro. Where is?
Do you start?
It wasn't a last-minute thing. They are printed for many days. They were just stored in another place, but here they are. Congratulations to the nominees.
So the first certificate goes to Zoom, Children's Museum, Vienna. Yeah.
Please come to the stage. BG Lab Andorra. Congratulations.
Trema, Museum of Ancient Art, Belgium.
Oh, yes. Yes.
No, but after. No, after. We finish.
No, we do a group photo. We do a group photo. No, stay.
No, but there is already. Yeah. Okay.
Museum of Folklore Border Life, Museu, Belgium. Congratulations.
Royal Museum of Fine Arts, Antwerp, Belgium. Congratulations.
Museum of Međimurje, Čakovec, Croatia. Was it almost correct, the pronunciation?
It was great.
I learned. Congratulations.
Museum of Czech Literature, Prague. Congratulations.
Museum of Glass and Jewelry in Jablonec nad Nisou, Czech Republic. Congratulations. Please.
Zameczek Memorial Pardubice, Czech Republic. Congratulations.
Flucht, the Refugee Museum of Denmark, Axel.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Estonian Sports and Olympic Museum, Tartu. Congratulations, Sim.
K like Kalamaja Museum, Estonia.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Congratulations, please. Congratulations.
Okay, the most difficult one. Luostarninmäki Museum Quarter, Turku, Finland. Congratulations. Congratulations.
SAMI, Sami Museum. Congratulations. Please.
Memorial of the 1902 catastrophe, Frank Apperet Museum. Martinique, France. Congratulations.
Forum Wissen, Germany. Herzliche Gratulation.
Thanks so much.
Jewish Museum, Frankfurt, Germany.
Das ist gefährlich, ja.
Congratulations.
Neandertal Museum Höhlenblick Tower, Germany. Alles gut. Bitte sehr.
Salt Museum, Greece. Congratulations.
Very much. Thank you.
Archaeological Museum of Chania, Greece.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Congratulations. We make a break. In the halftime, we make a break.
Hungarian Money Museum and Visitor Center, Budapest. Congratulations. Congratulations.
We arrive in Italy, Villa Freischütz, the House Museum. Gratuliere. Gratuliere.
Giovanni Poleni Museum, Padova, Italy. Congratulations.
Artis Grote Museum, Netherlands. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Dutch Resistance Museum, Amsterdam. Congratulations.
Now a little interactivity. Look at your shoes. Now, shoe quarter, Netherlands. Congratulations.
National Museum of Art, Architecture and Design, Oslo, Norway. Congratulations.
Be careful with the stairs. Meyvaert Museum in Płock, Poland. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Museum and Memorial in Sobibór, German Nazi extermination camp. Department of the State Museum at Maidan, Włodawa. Gratulacje. Gratulacje.
That's a hard call. Museum of the Panorama of the Battle of Wrocławice, branch of the National Museum in Wrocław, Poland. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Sibir Memorial Museum, Białystok, Poland. Gratulacje. Gratulacje.
National Museum in Lublin, Poland. That's the speed record you did. Congratulations.
Gratulacje.
Covilha.
Covilha Museum, Portugal. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Sorry for all Portuguese native speakers in this venue. I try my best. Rua dos Correiros Archaeological Site, Narc, Portugal. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Please.
Royal Treasure Museum, Lisbon.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. So, I will leave that.
Pau Casals Museum, España. Felicitaciones.
I left you the difficult one. Wrak, Museum of Wrecks, Stockholm, Sweden.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Museum of Östergötland, Linköping, Sweden.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. All of you. Congratulations.
Now we move to Switzerland, Burgdorf Castle Museum, Burgdorf, Switzerland. Congratulations.
Super.
Congratulations.
Das ist Eindruck. Villa Bernasconi, Grand Nancy, Switzerland. Felicitations. Congratulations. Okay.
Wettingen Abbey, Wildegg, Switzerland. Congratulations, Angela.
Ja, Angela. Gratuliere. 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 Centre d'Urnemat, Neuchâtel, Switzerland. Gratuliere.
Istanbul Cinema Museum. Congratulations, Murat.
Congratulations. Bohdan and Varvara Kanenko National Museum of Arts, Ukraine. Great that you're here.
Congratulations. National Museum of the History of Ukraine in the Second World War, the Memorial Complex, Kyiv, Ukraine.
Congratulations.
Gratulacje.
The Burrell Collection, Scotland, United Kingdom. Congratulations.
Museum of the Home, London. Congratulations.
We almost made it. Museum of Making, United Kingdom. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Okay. So
And
that was
now,
the last one. Yeah.
all nominees, please come on the stage again.
For a group photo.